You're listening to the Seahawks Insiders, getting you ready for Seahawks football every Sunday. Presented by Delta, the official airline of the Seahawks. Now, here's your host, Jen Mueller.
It is the next game on the schedule, but boy, is it a big one. It is a winner-take-all. It is one for all the marbles. John Boyle, I don't even know exactly what that means. I don't need marbles. I need points. This is exactly what the schedule makers wanted at the end of the season. This is exactly what we thought the conference would come down to and the division would come down to when the schedules came out way back in May, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you knew the Rams would be in the mix too, which is why that game when the Seahawks played 2 weeks ago was massive as well. Like, it's a really good division. We knew the Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams would all be really good. So when you see a Week 18 division matchup, it looks on paper in May when we get that schedule, this could be a big one. And it's, I mean, big as they get. The division title, the number one seed. I mean, the difference of you're home for the playoffs for the bye or you're going on the road with no bye, that's a huge swing in this game.
It is a huge swing, and the Rams' loss also gives you just a little bit more clarity so you know where you would be going. And while I don't want to end up as the 5 seed, you could be going right back to Carolina. There's familiarity there. Like that is actually kind of an easier road to get there. But it is a big one. Yeah. I don't think anybody's actually contemplating that in the locker room, by the way. I, as the sideline reporter, was thinking, we're not going to Chicago.
Yeah, no, all of us are thinking about it. I'm sure the players are just focused on, hey, how do we get ready for this week? I doubt they know.
I'm sure happens. They have not looked.
They all know what happens if they win, but if they lose, I don't think they're even thinking about where that would end up. But they're not thinking that way.
Well, and I know that there's been so much conversation about having this game on Saturday. It is prime time. Everybody's going to be watching this game. And you wonder if maybe the NFL should have shifted that one to Sunday, but that would mean taking Aaron Rodgers out of the Sunday night game. And look, I will say this, and John, I think you can attest to it. When we landed on Sunday, the game between the 49ers and Bears was just finishing up, right? As we're
touching down, we're watching our computers and phones.
And within minutes, the announcement comes down that we are playing on Saturday, and not a single player or a staff member on the plane flinched and said, oh, man. It was just like, okay, here we go.
How do we get ready for a Saturday? Yep. I mean, that's the attitude Mike McDonald's had about this of just, okay, tell us when we're playing. We'll figure out our schedule. As he said on Monday, they kind of look at, okay, it's a one-day trip. We're going west, or we're on the West Coast, staying west, I should say. Let's build it backwards from there. And they got a plan worked out how they want to do it, and they'll be ready.
And oddly enough, I don't know if people were actually thinking about it being on a short week. I think the emphasis is what's on the line and knowing that they've got a chance to exact a little bit of revenge against the 49ers. But if you start talking about short weeks, look, it is one less day for Seattle. And you are going to travel. So, in fact, that takes out like a half a day. Mm-hmm. The 49ers are back-to-back short weeks. They're going to play 3 games in 13 days.
Yeah, that is an advantage Seahawks have. They at least had the Thursday game leading into last week. So they got the little extra rest last week, whereas the 49ers had Monday game, Sunday game, now Saturday game. Now, they were home for last week and this week, so they don't have travel factored in. So you can make an argument that it hurts both teams. You can make an argument that one team has the advantage. But look, ultimately, they're going to get to Saturday. They're going to play a football game. And, by the time that game starts, we're not going to worry about, who had what advantage. Just go play football.
And quite honestly, it comes down to the best team, right? It comes down to the best team winning. It is part of the elements. It is part of what you faced on the road to the Super Bowl. It is interesting, however, and we noted this at the beginning of the year, when you have week 1 against a division rival and then you see them the last week of the season, it's kind of like you know what to expect a little bit, but I don't think that tape from week 1 has anything to do with this. Like it's kind of helpful for a point of comparison, but everything has changed, including the defense in pretty significant ways.
It's funny. I just think we've grown as a defense, and as coaches included, of how we prepare our guys. I think we have a better feeling for what our guys are good at and what they can handle on a game plan basis. We had to pivot pretty pretty drastically in that game, and that happens. It happens all the time, and you got to be able to do that to win. And so, we're gonna have a plan this game that we feel great about, hopefully, and you got to kind of have a backup plan too if things don't really go your way. You never know what's going to happen, but I would just say we just have a better understanding of who we are, who can do what, how much we can carry, all those things. I feel like we have more clarity at this point, which I'm actually glad that's the case. Otherwise, that wouldn't be a very good job on our part.
I like that at the end. If 17 weeks later we didn't have any more clarity about our defense, I wouldn't be very good at my job.
I do like that reframe.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when he talks about pivoting, one of the biggest pivots is, as we've seen as the season goes along, Nick Emmanwori is a huge part of this defense, brings so much versatility, the different things he can do. And he got hurt. He makes a tackle for loss on his, fourth play in the NFL, and unfortunately gets his leg fallen on by a teammate and just kind of fluky thing, high ankle sprain. He's out that game and the next 3. So that was a big change. They didn't have Uchenna Nwosu. He would still come back from injury that game. And then just overall, they're just all playing better. I mean, it's going back to that. They had basically a season in Mike's scheme. Now they have 2. They basically have double the game experience playing for Mike Macdonald now than they did in week 1.
And you put Ty Okada in for Emmanwori. Ty has been a revelation this year.
He's been so good.
Really tough to do that 4 plays into the NFL season, to your point, where he's still learning the defense at that level. Rick Woolen was tested in week 1. We saw how that went the first few weeks, and boy, has he gotten back into the form that you expected him to be.
No, he's played so much better the second half of the season. So, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about that because that wasn't an injury thing, but that was a guy he's a much better player than what he was on that day.
Yes, well, it was the tip. He tipped that final pass, that final touchdown pass in week 1. It ended up to be the touchdown, the go-ahead score, and just couldn't haul that one in. San Francisco, by the way, averaging 35.6 points per game during a 6-game winning streak. They have been putting up some offensive numbers. Now, part of this is their first half points. They're averaging 23 in the first half of the last 3 games. And John, I think that's significant. We keep saying fast starts, you need a fast start. You really don't want to be playing from behind. And I did check the weather. It's supposed to be raining on Saturday night.
Really? I was going to look at that.
Come
on, California.
I know.
It's supposed to be nice there. That's why everyone lives there, right?
It's prime time.
The weather.
It's prime time in January. Come on, John. But knowing how proficient the 49ers have been early in games, right? Seattle needs to have an answer. I say needs to have an answer, and I guess Mike Macdonald agrees with me, and just kind of getting things going in the first and second quarters.
It's kind of like our run game. We've had some games where we've started really great. We had some games that we haven't and been able to rebound. It's hard to attribute it to just one thing. If not, I think we would have probably found a solution by now. But I'll tell you what, I mean, our guys were into it. I mean, it's not easy getting up and having your energy ready. I mean, you have to do it, going east and things like that. But it's, you have to be very intentional about it. And I thought our guys were ready to go. I thought our guys prepped really well. I thought they had great energy before the game. That's easier said than done, And I think we just got to keep attacking it. Keep looking at the openers. Keep seeing who's executing what, how we want to attack their structures, making sure our operation's right. That's going to go a long way. So I don't know. I wish I had a single answer for you, but I know our guys are doing the inputs that we want. I think we're just not getting the results we want right now.
And as Mike said, if it was one thing, if it was just, we're not doing X, Y, or Z, it'd be a lot easier to fix. There's just been little things. Sometimes it's field position. Sometimes it's, just a couple of run plays don't work, and all of a sudden you're third and long and the drive's kind of dead. So they need to be better. To your earlier point, they need to have kind of an answer for what the 49ers are doing. To me, that can be 2 things. It can be you get your offense going so you're not playing from behind, or you keep doing what they've been doing defensively. And look, not that you want to be 3-3 at halftime, but you feel a lot better about the offense kind of stalling out if your defense is doing what Seattle's defense has consistently been doing. Because none of these games, when we talk about all the slow starts where they've had 3 points, 6 points, none of them have they gone to halftime down a bunch of points.
Well, and I do think it's worth pointing out, you are getting the best effort of your opponents, right? And everybody's going to give you their best effort. Every team in the league knows what Seattle's defense is, right? They are trying to do the exact same thing. You can get 2 good quarters out of just about any team, right? It's who's going to sustain. And this is what Uchenna Nwosu said after the game, right? We can do it for 4 quarters. I think some of that is just you are seeing different schemes. You are getting right out of the gates because they know that's the only way to keep up with this defense. And while we might worry about slow starts, look, Seattle's already set a franchise record for most points in a season. Now, they have scored just 5.3 points in the first half of the last 3 games, but overall for the course of the season, they're averaging 14 points a game. So I do think that does point more to like those little small things, but also let's give the defenses of the other opponents a little bit of credit. And you look, San Francisco's defense came off a lot of yards against Chicago. I don't want to say there's opportunity because it's a division opponent, and I never know what's going to happen, right? But at the end of games, it kind of goes back to it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right?
Yeah, we've heard that before.
I've heard that before. Where have I heard that?
But yeah, I mean, to your point is like really all these slow starts, I think it goes back to like the Minnesota game where it's been 3 points, 6 points. Other than the Indianapolis game, they've scored 26 or more points in all those games, including 37 against Falcons, 38 against the Rams. Now, some of that is your special teams and defense doing their part to add to that score, whether it's turnovers, returns, all that. But that's part of what makes us one of, if not the best team in the NFL, is they do things in all 3 phases. And, yeah, you look at those final scores and you're like, okay, they're one of the highest scoring teams in the NFL. And as you said, highest scoring of all time. So, yes, would it be better to go score a touchdown on your opening drive? Sure, but this is a kind of team that can win if the offense doesn't come out firing right out of the gates because they're just so good in all phases.
Well, and we've seen them come out firing in the second half more than once. And it was A.J. Barner. It is so fun to watch him on the sidelines because he is one of those voices that you hear most often on the sidelines. And I swear I could see it in his eyes. And John, when he caught those couple of passes in the third quarter, it's like there's no way that he's going down. There is no way. He was going to will himself to get the first down, to get the positive yards. And it's just so cool to watch him take over a game.
I mean, he's one of the best on this team. And, a lot of tight ends are this way because they're more physical, but he's really good at the first guy's not getting him down.
No.
Like, it's very rare that he catches the ball and that's where the play ends. He's going to fight. He's going to break a tackle. He's shifty enough. He can make guys miss in the open field if he needs to, but he's just powerful, really determined runner.
We have heard coaches talk about his leadership ability and how vocal he is. And Mike McDonald says it might sound like a broken record, but he can point to exactly why that's the case.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm really proud of AJ. He's I feel like every player we ask about that's had a great year, it's like this guy had a great offseason. It's just, but it's the truth. It's just like that's how it works. It doesn't just just pop up out of nowhere and all of a sudden the guy's making plays. I mean, his approach from when the season ended, the places where he trained, the attitude that he's had in the building, he's a spark plug. He's a catalyst for our offense. I'd like to get him. I know Clint wants to get him the ball more. And he deserves it. And when he does, he makes things happen. And I know he's blocking his tail off as well. In the C gap and out. And it's like, just really proud of him. He's done a heck of a job.
I found it interesting when we were back in like off-season stuff and training camp. If you asked about A.J. Barner, coaches and teammates kind of unprompted would talk about like his desire to be great and how he wants to, be a great player at his position. And I kind of got the feeling as many different places we were hearing that I was like, that's not just some kind of random thing. Like he's kind of always like, I'm going to speak this into existence. I have really high expectations for myself, and people around him noticed it, and he's backing it up. I mean, look, he just volume-wise, he's not one of the getting the numbers to be one of the top tight ends in terms of production, but what he's done for this offense, blocking in the run game, he pass protects, he comes up with these clutch catches, and then you add in all the stuff on the short yardage plays. I mean, that's been a really valuable thing for them. He hard counts guys, gets them off sides, which is hilarious. A tight end's doing that. But yeah, just he's become such a valuable part of this offense, and it seems like that was really, he knew he had this in him from the start, even if, coming out of the draft, he wasn't considered a super elite prospect.
Well, I hope that folks around the league are talking about A.J. Barner as much as we tend to talk about the 49ers tight end. We will get into that conversation in just a second, right after a word from our presenting sponsor.
Delta Airlines is bringing more big wins to the city of Seattle. With nonstop flights to over 60 destinations worldwide, we're moving Seattle forward with 2 new routes to Rome and Barcelona starting May 2026. And with thoughtfully designed cabins, premium service, a seamless travel experience, and our new Delta One lounge for eligible travelers, your personal off-season is looking better than ever. Visit delta.com to book your next trip.
George Kittle did not play for the 49ers against the Bears, but he did return to practice this week. He is dealing with a left ankle injury. He did not practice at all last week. John, we're probably not going to know his status until Saturday. Here's another name to watch out for regardless. It's Christian McCaffrey, who he and Trent Williams very rarely practice on the first day of the week. Williams is dealing with a hamstring injury. He did not practice, at least on their estimation. That came out earlier in the week. But McCaffrey is listed as having back stiffness, which is a legit injury, not just a DNP, right? Veteran resting. And my joke would be he's got back stiffness because he's been carrying the offense the entire season. I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Can we add a snare sound to the... Yeah. No, but you're right. I mean...
He's accounting for a third of their yards on offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a great player. But I remember early in the season, the workload he's getting is like, man, that does not seem sustainable for a guy. I mean, he's not old per se, but like in the latter half of his career as a running back at a very physical position, it seemed like, man, what they're doing with him is not sustainable. But here we are, week 18, and yes, he is on the injury report, but he told people after the game, like, it's nothing serious. It's just, and they're kind of maintaining this. So I'd be stunned if he's not on the field and touching the ball a ton on Saturday. But yeah, what he's doing is, I mean, he's, you say quarterbacks are always the MVP because the positional value there, but when you look at what he's meant to them all season, he's the MVP of that team. Yeah,
well, here's a few numbers here. McCaffrey has the 8th most rushing yards in the league, but he's only averaging 3.9 a carry. That's the 3rd lowest of his career. It's also 41st lowest in the league. So it's kind of funny when you look at that. Those are some hard-fought yards there. He is 22nd in the league in receiving yards. He leads the 49ers in receiving yards. Now, he is averaging about 9.5 yards per play when it comes to the receiving game. But, John, it is the number of touches that stands out. So total touches from line of scrimmage, 399. Yeah. Second highest of his career. By the way, career high, 403. So he will break that this week.
That'll be probably their first possession of the game.
Yeah.
If you can get 3 and out, maybe not. But I remember seeing games this year where it's like first drive of the game, it's like McCaffrey run, McCaffrey catch, McCaffrey run. That's all they're doing for a series. It's crazy what he's doing, but man, he's having a hell of a year.
He is, and he is one of the reasons that the 49ers, when you look at their drives and how efficient they have been in the red zone, first of all, they were perfect against the Bears. 65 drives have reached the red zone this year. That is tied for second most in the NFL. I mean, that's just, I don't know how they've managed to do this with as many injuries as they have, with all the different things going on. But between Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Kittle when he's healthy, this offense can do some pretty impressive things.
And Trent Williams when he's healthy, which that'll be a big question mark for them, but one of the best left tackles going in the game. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been since Kyle Shanahan's been there, they have been pretty consistently one of the toughest offenses in the NFL. A lot of that is coaching scheme, but they also have some real playmakers on that side of the ball. So, yeah, this is going to be, the Seahawks all year long have been one of the best defenses in the NFL. This is going to be a great test.
Well, and part of Shanahan's offense is creating space. Part of the defensive philosophies of Seattle is to take away space. That's where EAT comes from. What is that? Effort, angles, and tackling?
I believe so.
Did I get that right? And so Mike McDonald was explaining this week how it works on both sides of the ball. But look, on defense, you're just trying to shorten that space with your effort in finishing plays, with your angles, and with your ability to tackle. It also works on the offense because you're trying to create space. One of the guys who has been exceptional at that this year, Byron Murphy, and you have to know that he's going to come in big in the run game. His ability to take on 2 blockers is impressive, but based on the number of times Mike McDonald and AD have been asked about it, so is his technique in how he does it.
Justin Hines has done a great job with him, training his technique. But Murph's also was really skilled coming into the league as well. But yeah, you're right. I mean, normally it takes years to kind of develop this type of proficiency, and I wouldn't say it's because of the motions. I just nowadays you're playing different front structures. Sometimes we like to play with light boxes. Light boxes probably mean more double teams. And if you don't have guys to be able to do that, then it's going to make your life a little bit more difficult.
We hear all the time from coaches about those interior guys, like the work they do that kind of goes unnoticed and doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And that's, I mean, Byron Murphy has shown up on the stat sheet this year for sure, but the stuff he's doing in the run game where, yeah, I mean, it's just constantly guard and center double teaming him. And he's, even if he's not making the play, he's eating up 2 blockers and holding the point of attack there where other guys come and make the play. And that's why, a couple weeks ago, Mike McDonald talked about him like kind of single-handedly winning them the game on defense. He's just become such a valuable player in the middle of that defense and does so many things well.
And it is one of the reasons Seattle has a 25-game streak of not allowing a 100-yard rusher. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm going to be very honest. I now just expect that from this defense. And then I watched Bijan Robinson rip off a 93-yard run against the Rams. And I thought, I don't know why it was that run that put it into perspective on Monday night, but I'm like, man, think about how close we thought Bijan was going to get to that 100-yard mark in the first half of the game in Atlanta, and then they just come out and they shut him down. And you realize, man, how together this defense plays, that they are able to make the adjustments. But, John, they're not giving up yards.
No.
I mean, the yards that they gave up, and admittedly, it's really hard for me to check stats on the sidelines. I'm trying not to get run over, and cell phone service is generally not great, right?
Good to not get run over.
But to realize kind of after the fact, total yards allowed, the longest play they allowed was 11 yards.
The longest pass play was 8.
Was 8. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I believe it was 9 plays of over 11 yards, and they had 4 of over 40 yards given up against the Bears. Like, this defense, we get so used to seeing it, and then you see another team who is evenly matched with you in the standings and just realize how special this group is.
Yeah. And to your point, like, I'm not always watching every stat during the game. And it's like, like, okay, the defense is playing well, but then to look like 139 yards and 10 first downs, like that's in 40 net passing yards. That is crazy defense.
It did not feel like that on the sidelines. Here's what it felt like on the sidelines. It felt like they weren't going to be efficient and that they were going to have to grind it out. But if I had to guess, again, just on the sidelines from the notes that I take, I would have said they got close to 200 yards. I would have said that there was at least some like leaky yardage down the field, right? And there was a couple plays that were called, but like it just felt like you're not going to be efficient. You're just going to be turning your wheels. Those numbers were unbelievable.
And the way, I mean, so much of Carolina's attack was like they're going to try to check things down, run after catch, and the defense just didn't allow any of that.
Now, on the flip side of this, the last piece of the puzzle that we need to talk about is Sam Darnold. And we can kind of dive into all sorts of things, but how about if we just turn to coach to see how he evaluates his quarterback after last week's game?
I think the numbers yesterday show that it wasn't his best game, and like I said after the game, Sam did what we needed to do to win the game. Now you're a hairline fracture away, or a angstrom away from that being an incomplete pass, and we'll see where the toe was on the interception. And all of a sudden now we have a no turnover game and no one's talking about it. So can we make some better decisions? Can we clean up some fundamentals? Yeah, absolutely. That goes for everybody. That's the same story every game, but talked to Sam this morning. He's in great spirits. Same guy every day, did the things we needed to win.
I love Mike teaching us a little vocabulary. Did you know the word angstrom?
No.
I'm trying to transcribe that quote after his press conference. I'm like, wait, what did he just say?
I mean, I can only imagine because he originally said hairline fracture that it's teeny, tiny.
It is a unit of length equal to 100 millionth of a centimeter, used mainly to express wavelength. Yeah.
What?
Or interatomic distances. I
don't even know what an interatomic distance is. When would I have ever learned this word? How does Coach know this word? I've got so many more questions after hearing that word.
Up on that angstrom, yeah. So his point is.
Anyway, the point of the story is.
The point was both turnovers were very you could have. They're both the kind of plays that whatever the call on the field was probably going to stand. Like, was his arm moving forward? Was Mike Jack's toe on the line? Either way, they're the kind of plays that you want to clean up because, as Mike says, the ball's at risk. But the bigger point that Mike's made a few times this season is even when Sam's not at his best, he's not the kind of guy who's going to go in a shell and just the game gets away from. He's resilient. He tends to, a lot of these games I think of where he's turned the ball over, he makes some of his best plays late. Some of the throws he made late as they're trying to close out that game best plays he made that game. Against the Rams, he turned this past Rams game, turns it over a couple times, leads a couple great drives late in the game. Best throws he made all game were on those last drives. Even the 4-interception game against the Rams helped him get back into it. So this is a guy that, yes, they need to be better with the football, and that starts with a quarterback, but he's not a guy who just is going to like spiral out of control if things aren't going his way.
And again, I hate to bring it back to the Rams, but when you watch that game on Monday night, Matthew Stafford did not look anywhere close to being sharp, right? A very elite quarterback who was dominating the MVP conversation going into Monday can do that and still be considered an elite quarterback. Yeah, you're going to have to be just a little bit more judicious with some of those decisions and choices. But you are also this week facing a San Francisco defense that is just not at its best. Fewest sacks recorded in the league. It's 18. I was trying to fill in my spotting boards, and I'm like, wait, who's got sacks?
Yeah.
Nobody's got sacks on that team. Just 6 interceptions, and their passing defense is allowing 235 yards. That is 25th in the league. Now, if it is raining, we know it can be very windy in San Fran. That pass game might not play as much, but I do think that there's some opportunities. You are going to need to be smart with the ball, but just based on recent trends by the Niners, I do think there's some opportunities for Sam to push the ball downfield and to get those yards that we've talked about early in the game and to close it out the way you want to.
Yeah, I mean, look, we saw a totally different game, and every game plays out differently, but as we saw against the Bears, like there were big play opportunities against that 49ers defense, and when the games that Sam Darnold, and this is true most quarterbacks, the games that Sam Darnold has had the biggest issues is when teams are getting quick pressure on him, and that's not the 49ers. I mean, they've lost Nick Bosa, they lost Fred Warner, they're not at full strength on defense, and it's hurt their pass rush. And so this is a game where, to your point, you need to be smart, but I think there's going to be opportunities to push the ball downfield.
Well, and there's going to be opportunities to tell people what you would like to see in a Seahawks win right after we hear from our presenting sponsor.
Take your own offseason with Delta Airlines and explore new routes from Seattle to Rome and Barcelona starting May 2026. Plus, with nonstop flights to over 60 destinations worldwide, Delta is moving Seattle forward one adventure at a time.
All right, John, what do we got? What do we need to see on Saturday?
I mean, if we can just be really obvious, we just talked about the turnovers, but like just let's one or fewer. I'm not even going to say turnover free. Turnover free would be great, but I'll keep it at one or fewer turnover. And then I wish I knew if we had Rashid Shaheed back, because I would love to see a big dynamic play in special teams to kind of change the game. But I mean,
he was listed as a limited participant.
Yeah, concussions are tough though. I mean, I looked it up. Seahawks have had 4 guys with concussions this year, and none have made it back the next game. So maybe that changes. Every concussion is different, but I don't think you can count on it this early in the week. Other side of the ball, I just want to make Brock Purdy uncomfortable. Get the pressure, get the quarterback hits. You know, especially if Trent Williams is unable to go. He hurt his hamstring in that game, so take advantage of that. Really, just knock him around, get some sacks, move him off his spot, and then don't let him turn. When you do get those pressures, don't let him scramble out. And we've seen him make some great plays with his legs. So just knock him around a little bit.
Yeah, well, and he is not the gunslinger like Matthew Stafford is, right? He's not. Once you take away his legs, that's going to make it a little bit easier. And I got to say, Seattle's done a really good job with contain. I was going to say 2 takeaways from that defense, right? Yeah. You had it in week 1, so let's just go out and repeat that. You've had, I don't even care where they come from, but 2 takeaways in that game, and let's keep the 100-yard rushing going.
Yes.
You've had back-to-back games. It is a nice confidence boost for the entire offense, but it also just opens up your playbook differently. And the amount of time they were able to take off the clock in the fourth quarter, it's exactly what you needed.
Drive, they took like 9 minutes off the clock.
Yeah, you're like, I might have liked a touchdown there, but you did exactly what you needed to do in holding on to the ball.
Yeah. And then they get the ball back and run it. I think it was 5 straight runs to score a touchdown after the 4th down stop. It's like everyone in the world knew that ball was going to Zach Charbonnet, and they still pounded it in the end zone. So run game's been great. Was it 300 34 yards last 2 games, I believe.
I'm not going to do math on a podcast, John, when the camera's on. I'm not going to do that. I will say one quick note for our 50 stories in Seahawks history, or stories to celebrate our 50th season. Richard Sherman is out right now, and I cannot think of a better person to talk about the rivalry against the 49ers, the tip, and how it was Earl Thomas that actually led to that post-game interview that he had with Aaron Andrews. So that's my little plug, because we are getting hyped for Saturday night's game in San Fran. That'll help you get there. And however this plays out, we'll be back next week for another episode of the Seahawks Insiders Podcast.